Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of Kabir Considers. In this video, I'm going to react to maps that will help you understand the world. Now, I'm okay at geography, like international geography that is, but there's definitely a lot that I don't know and a lot that I want to learn. Like, I want to do a lot more traveling because I find that the easiest way to learn about geography is to go to a place, you know, really immerse yourself in that country and the culture. But videos like this kind of are a decent substitute sometimes. So I'm hoping it's going to have some interesting stuff for me and you guys who are watching this. So yeah, let's do it.
Guys, I don't even know how to introduce these anymore. I just found really cool maps that give us interesting information about the world, so here they are, starting with the two on the thumbnail. First, we have a map for the average annual tea consumption per capita in Europe. Essentially, as we can see on the bar on the left, the darker the color, the more tea each country consumes.
Wow, I thought UK would have been the darkest. Where is this?
Purple means on average that country would consume 4 kilograms of tea per person. The map stretches a little into North Africa and the Middle East as well, and thankfully so, because apparently these are very high tea consuming countries. Turkey seems to rank first, followed by the UK and Ireland. Then comes Russia and Iran, and then Morocco, Egypt and Poland. Germany, the Netherlands, Ukraine, Czechia and Switzerland follow. And then the rest of Europe with available data is in the yellow, meaning they consume probably less than 1 kilogram of tea per person per year. The least tea consuming seem to be Greece, Denmark, Belgium and Portugal. I personally like tea a lot, and tea seems to be a big thing here, so I don't know, maybe these aren't very accurate. A good moment to remind you to always look at these maps and data with critical thinking. Don't just assume it's right because it's presented nicely and widely distributed online. The second map on the thumbnail is about each US state's contribution to the GDP, essentially which states generate the most money through their bigger economies. This is referring to the third quarter of the year of 2019, so keep in mind that data may have changed, and this is only referring to the last quarter of a year, but I think the tendency might.
The usual suspects: California number 1, Texas number 2, New York number 3. Yeah, you kind of expected it. Florida, however, I didn't know that Florida would be such a big contributor.
Be representative. As we can see on the scale above, the darker the color, the more that state contributes to the US GDP. The top contributors are California, by far the number 1 with 14.6%, followed by Texas and then New York, 8.8% and 8.1% respectively. The green range is kind of too large compared to the others, and within it we have 4 more states that are far below Texas or New York, but above the rest. Florida at 5.1%, Illinois at 4.2%, Pennsylvania at 3.8%, and Ohio at 3.3%. Oh, and Washington too, although I don't have the numbers for that. We can clearly tell that the coasts are the richest, although the Northeast not so much. The interior of the US contributes only between 0.2 to 1% of the total GDP.
Surprising, because I thought a lot of farming went on in these areas.
Per state, with a couple exceptions in light green here and there. This next map is really interesting, and it shows us the influence that the Roman Empire still has on countries today. It lists out 7 attributes that were used during Roman times: the Gregorian calendar, the Latin alphabet, Catholic religion, a Roman-like legal system, the usage of Romantic languages, a type of Roman governance, republics, and if they are within the historic borders of Rome. Now, all this is highly questionable from my perspective. Catholicism wasn't invented by the Romans, despite them contributing a lot to its expansion. Republics weren't invented by the Romans either. In fact, the Roman Republic was only a part of Roman existence before they became an empire, amongst many things. So I wouldn't see these attributes as being inheritances we have from the Romans, but more things about our states today that are similar to what the Romans also had. Still, it's interesting to see. The darker the red, the more attributes the country shares with the Romans. We can see Southern Europe, Southern America, and West Africa are the most similar within these attributes.
Crazy that, you know, that influence is still so strong in a lot of places. Like,
regions. Southern Europe because of the direct historical connection with the empire, Southern America as the grandsons of the Romans, if you will, since their states are highly influenced by Portugal and Spain, and West Africa, I think, following a similar logic. Next, this map shows us writing direction by country. It's very interesting. The vast majority of the world, in blue, writes from left to right, even if sometimes using different alphabets. The Arab world, not entirely, but in great majority, writes from the right to the left. And only a few countries in Asia, as far as I can tell, China, Mongolia, the Koreas, and Japan, write from left to right or top to bottom. Within these differences, it's interesting that we always write in perpendicular form, if that makes sense. I mean, nobody writes diagonally, for instance, and nobody writes in a circle or with a seemingly random arrangement of letters. It's fascinating how these cultures, so different from each other, although perhaps sharing common origins, all end up writing in such similar ways. This other map connects Europe to the United States. It's not very graphically pleasing to look at. The colors, the map borders, and the font are not ideal, but the information seems interesting if it is accurate. In each European country, we see represented a US state. That US state is the one where that country has the highest percentage of population. Now, this doesn't mean that the majority of...
So Utah has the highest amount of Brits, I see, or British ancestry. Huh. I would have thought it would have been New York.
People in Maine have French ancestry. What it means is that Maine is the US state in which the percentage of people with French ancestry is the highest when compared to other states. It's interesting to see how some trends exist and how countries share US states as the preferred destination.
Isn't this Russia right here? So there's a lot of Russians?
For their people. Portugal and Italy both have Rhode Island, the UK and Denmark, Utah, Germany, Norway and Iceland, North Dakota, Spain, New Mexico, Hungary and Slovenia, both Ohio, Russia and Belarus, New York. Now, obviously this data might be completely wrong, keep that in mind. I look at this and think, how is Wisconsin the state with the highest percentage of Polish people? But we have to take into account population number totals of the states as well. Maybe there are more Polish people in New York than in Wisconsin, but a smaller number might represent a higher percentage of the population if Wisconsin has less people than New York. Still in Europe, we have this great map, honestly my favorite of this list, depicting the oldest still functioning universities in Europe. If you want me to make a full video on this, I'd love to, discussing the origin.
Wow, Oxford is almost 1,000 years old. That is crazy. Let's see, what else have we got here? Yeah, that's pretty impressive. That's like 800 years old. Wow, look at this one. This one's the oldest one, I think.
Origin of these ancient medieval schools, so let me know in the comments if you'd like to see that. The darker the green, the oldest the university. The oldest of all seems to be Bologna, followed by Salamanca, Oxford.
Oh wow, I missed it. Holy crap.
Sorbonne, Coimbra, and Vienna. Italy, Spain, England, France, Portugal, and Austria, respectively. In this orange or pink, we have those which are much more recent, and the most recent of all seems to be Luxembourg's University from 2003. Next, we have a paper sizes world map, showing us the most commonly used paper size by country. Almost the entire world uses A4 measurements, but a few countries, for whatever reason, use a slightly different one. Chile, Venezuela, Colombia, Mexico, the United States, Canada, the Philippines, and some others in Central America use the US letter size instead. I don't get why this is the case, especially in a more and more...
Because they're so similar. Like, we live in such a globalized world. Why not just... But I guess, you know, it's not really a big deal.
International context in which each country exists. But I guess it works for them. I even found an opinion when I looked this up saying that the shorter aspect ratio lets you fit more text, graphics, and reasonably oriented material onto a sheet of paper. And this would make US letters better for letters, academic papers, and engineering drawings. Now, I have no idea if this is true, but if so, maybe we're the ones who are wrong using A4. This
Yeah.
other map is also worldwide and presents us with a general idea of lactose intolerance throughout the world. Although it presents it in the opposite way, showing the percentage of people that are tolerant to lactose. According to this, most of the world, although I just noticed the map is missing the entire continent of America, would be kind of lactose intolerant, with only small parts of Arabia, West Africa, and especially Northern Europe being extremely tolerant to lactose. I think the dots on the maps are where they conducted research. Again, always question the veracity of this data, but it is interesting that so much of the world would not be entirely tolerant to lactose.
That would indicate that milk consumption in those countries dating back is quite a recent thing. Like in Northern Europe, they must have been consuming milk for a long time. So the DNA has had time to evolve into like being able to deal with and digest lactase.
Since this last map missed America, let's go to a map about a Southern American country, Brazil. This map shows us the dominant ancestry groups in each Brazilian state. Essentially the opposite of that map we saw for Europe. Here, each state shows us what the biggest ancestry group is within it. Most of them are Portuguese, which makes sense since the country used to be a Portuguese colony, but there are also 5 states of indigenous and or African descent. The second biggest ethnicity is Italian, followed by Spanish. Germans also occupy a big amount, although only being in the majority in one state in the south. And surprisingly, people of Lebanese ancestry are, according to this, very common in Brazil, although not being the biggest group in any state. Next, we're back to a worldwide map depicting the most commonly used electrical outlets. Now, the legend for this map is a little confusing. It has 13 different types of outlets, but then they are color-coded in groups. I honestly don't fully understand the point of grouping them up. Maybe it's because those with the same color, despite being different, are compatible. If so, we can see that most of the world uses outlets of the light blue type. North America, Central and Northern South America use those of the orange type, as does Japan, Taiwan, the Philippines, Thailand, Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia. Australia, New Zealand, Papua New Guinea, Argentina, and a part of China use the dark blue types. India, South Africa, Namibia, and Sri Lanka use the pink type, and the UK and a lot of its former colonies in Africa, as well as Burma and Malaysia, use the purple type.
Yeah,
this is something that
I prefer the 3-thing one. Like, let me show you. Like this one here. Hold on. This one, just because I think it gives you more stability. Like it's less likely to, get pulled out of the wall.
is so annoying, although I imagine there's some logical explanation for it. But why doesn't the entire world just have one common or at least fully compatible modes of electrical outlets? And finally, to end this video, a map of Australia showing us in which areas we can naturally find a platypus, which is completely pointless to this video, but a platypus is a cool animal, so do what you will with this incredibly useful information. This was the second video of these kind of statistical maps that I made, and I still have a bunch of other cool maps saved, which I think you might appreciate seeing.
Yeah, really cool. Like I definitely I really enjoyed seeing the university one. Like I didn't realize that there were so many universities in Europe that were almost 1,000 years old. You know, to think that that building in some form has been standing, people have been going there, learning, for 1,000 years. It's just, it blows my mind. The tea consumption one was fun as well. I thought the UK would easily be number one, but no, apparently in Turkey they drink more tea. Never would have guessed it, but really, really fun video. Let me know if you guys want to see more stuff like this, because I personally really enjoy it. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.